think it's a good idea.
On Saturday, I was taking Lane and Nina to the Head Over Heels, and the contractor that is working on the old Head Over Heels space closed Spur Alley. This is the section of Spur Alley from 45th to 53rd that the city has an easement for. And so I asked, well, why did you do this? And they claimed that they had gotten permission from the city. I've since asked Pat to do some checking. I don't think that that's the case. They were doing construction on a Saturday, which requires a waiver of the noise ordinance, which I don't think they got. But in talking to Pat, another issue came up. They have previously sought to close Spur Alley on a weekday. Now, a weekday is a time when they can do construction, so they would not need a waiver of the noise ordinance, but they would need to get what's called an encroachment permit, because to close Spur Alley is to encroach upon the city's easement. And what Pat told me is that that the staff has the authority to issue encroachment permits for Spur Alley, and I think that should not be something that the staff can authorize. I mean, I see it as the same as closing a street, and it seems like something that's a pretty drastic thing to happen. So the Spur Alley, I take Spur Alley, I take the girls on the bike, I use Spur Alley to get them to school, so I'm on there every day, every weekday, and it's at least one occasion they've tried to close it on a weekday. So they have quite a bit more work to do, and I just don't think that it makes sense for them to be able to close Spur Alley with just staff approval. I'm asking for the City Council whether we need to change this.
It's probably a good idea, if for no other reason, for public notification, so that when these things happen, the public has a way of being notified, because otherwise there's no way for anybody to know. They just go somewhere and discover that it's closed.
What's from staff, whomever is the right person, what's the scope of these kind of things? I mean, is it just Spur Alley, or does it apply to a whole host of things, or, I mean, where do the lines get drawn about when you come to us and when you don't?
I mean, we came to you as it relates as an example for the Wareham project where
Right.
they wanted to close off, and generally those that initially came to the traffic committee, if I'm not mistaken. And so things that are of a longer duration, those are the items that we generally try to bring to you. Those that may be for a short period of time, for perhaps maybe part of a day, or don't involve the entire closure of a street. We actually have different construction projects that are encroaching onto sidewalks and to bits of rights of way that have been authorized. So it's kind of we try to use our best judgment in those things, but if it's going to be an extended period of closure or partial closure, then we bring it to you. We also brought recently, there was discussion about the mini triathlon, where, and the concern about that staff had, it was that while it was only for a short period of time, it was going to be through extended parts of the city, so we brought that as well. But if we had to bring every encroachment into city rights of way, I think that would considerably impede activity in the city.
When the Spur Alley was closed, does that mean that the parking that usually, the private parking that's usually allowed there was not allowed because there was machinery in the way or something? They closed
Spur Alley on a Saturday morning. All the parents going to Head Over Heels were told, you now have to circle around and enter this parking lot that you normally never use, which is the one off of 47th and Doyle. And so everyone was directed around that way, and it was now that was a huge inconvenience, but they were clearly in violation of the noise ordinance regarding construction. So So I'm not talking about weekends, because if they want to do construction on the weekend, they have to come here to get a waiver of the noise ordinance. I'm talking about a weekday closing Spur Alley. Mike, I appreciate...
My question still stands. Does that mean that the people who usually park there couldn't park there?
Yeah, I mean, they
Probably.
close the whole thing. I mean, if they do a partial closure, then, and let traffic through, then that's okay. I don't, that's just, waving people through.
It's not clear to me from your little anecdote, John, that they had an encroachment permit.
They did
Did they
not.
have an
No,
encroachment?
they did not.
They didn't have an encroachment
No,
permit.
it was-
So staff is clearly not at fault here.
Well,
Although we,
No,
No, there was a I mean,
this is Silberman
the staff
playing a
didn't
bandito again.
the staff that they spoke to didn't realize that we have this easement, or to the extent they did, they had forgotten about it. But it is a public easement that they needed our permission to close off, and so we've sort of corrected that to inform staff that yes, we have a property right that they need our permission to close off if they want to do it in the future. And I believe Councilmember Fricke is now saying, okay, to the extent there is a closure, should staff be allowed to do that, or should it come to the council?
The question that I raise here is that whenever a road is closed, whenever anything is changed, where is the public notification? How does a member of the public know that anything's going to happen? Is there some process?
Road, it's a parking.
I said any process, any road, any closure, how does the public become aware of it? Is there any way for the city to put something out there so that people can be aware of it? Can they go to the website and find a spot where we announce that something's going to be closed or changed as
No,
a matter of courtesy?
Well, there are two issues. My understanding is that the
Is that ridiculous,
encroachment
Nora?
the
You
encroachment
betcha.
It's ridiculous, huh?
encroachment permit can be done
Take a
very
little
informal.
Prozac, Ken.
The encroachment permit process is very informal. The contractor calls up a city staff member, and it can be oral. And so...
No.
and-
No.
it
No,
cannot
there should be in
No,
writing.
No.
no.
No,
We have
that's
an
not true.
encroachment permit form that they're supposed to fill out and sign. They're supposed to provide proof of insurance, and there's also a deposit.
I don't think that's what happened on Saturday. but-
No, it didn't, because they were told that you didn't need an encroachment
Right,
permit.
okay, I see.
Why don't we
okay.
do this? Why don't we put this on a future agenda? And what sounds to me like what we ought to do is say if it's a complete closure, then it needs to come to us. If it's not, let's continue on like it is.
That's exactly what I'm asking for, and I'm asking for Spur Alley not to have
Right.
second-class
Right.
status,
Right.
because obviously for the vehicles, where vehicles are, then we have the full-blown city council approval.
Right.
But where you have pedestrian and bicycle easement, then it's second-class status. The last thing I have is regarding Measure C.